once you went to, Carolina, you went to Carolina for coaching specifically, and for your age, that's extremely impressive at the time to be able to make that distinction that is what you're going to go to school for. Most athletes would say, I'm going here because I want to make it to the next level. And you knew your career path. And a lot of that, I guess, is due to your mom being a coach, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So you just kind of grew up into it. And just so all of you know, Jackson's mom is actually, she coached women's high school basketball and volleyball for years, but she's actually in the Hall of Fame up in Western North Carolina. So she was a heck of a coach for sure.
She won more state championships in a sport that she didn't play.
Yeah. His mom actually played basketball in college, and his dad did as well at Western.
Basketball Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame at Western Carolina. Great basketball player, women's basketball player. But she only won one state championship in basketball, and she won 3 straight in volleyball.
Wow.
It's so mind-boggling. And the best part about it, she never played volleyball. She was a PE major, so she had to learn
how to coach
learn it as a curriculum.
Wow.
There were people, she brought in people that were her assistants that could help her fill in the gaps. And I mean,
I'm just going to break off for a second. That woman, I mean, if you were to meet her, Cindy Simmons is a name that people in Western North Carolina know.
In
the state. Yeah. But I mean, and definitely in Western North Carolina, it was funny because like when we were getting married, people that my parents knew, they'd be like, oh my gosh, Cindy Simmons, she's one of, like whatever. But you meet her, my mother-in-law, you would think she was a kindergarten art teacher. She is the most soft-spoken, kindest woman until you get on her bad side. And then she has a voice, and she is a heck of a coach. And that came out, and it's so funny. I wish I could see her coach because I can't imagine it in my head. But anyway,
well,
go back on track.
You've heard stories though.
I have heard stories.
I've even heard stories since dating her that a lot of her former players that are also known as my sisters told, and I'm like, really?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah.
And that's funny. We could sit here and talk about being coaches, kid, because you're like my sisters, and all my dad's players were always like my brothers. And so it's crazy. Yeah. But so after Carolina, you knew you wanted to coach. So I know I don't know if it has changed since, but at the time, your next step was to be a graduate assistant. Was that kind of the trajectory for people that wanted to get into college coaching? Or
at the time, yes. I mean, I know it's the position I'm in now as head video coordinator. I never had even thought about that route before this. I just always know I wanted to be in college to start. And a lot of people ask me, they said, why do you not want to go play overseas just for a year, just to say you did it? And I guess now I could look back and say, well, I can understand why that would be considered a big deal. But at the time, that wasn't what I felt God was telling me to do. I didn't feel that push to go do something just to say that I did it. I wanted to do something that I was being called for. And at the time, I didn't feel like, I knew I wasn't going to the NBA, at least as a player. And what I had always dreamed about before was being a college coach. And at the time, our former director of operations, Joe Holliday, was from Oklahoma, and he coached against Mark Price. And Mark had just gotten a job at UNC Charlotte, and I was finishing up my degree work, and he had openings for a graduate assistant. And
well, you're friends with Caroline, his daughter.
Yeah, Caroline she
played tennis there.
She played tennis there. We came in at the same we came in at the same time, and
Sweet girl.
yeah, and we were in the leadership academy together. You know, just we were good friends, and you know, there was already that connection there. I'd met him at times before, and so, and actually a few members on his staff that he hired were had recruited me. Andre Gray was one of them, and Chris Ferguson, and then Houston Fancher, and there was already that connection there. So, but anyways, there was already
Love
a
you,
connection
Hoopy.
there, and so I was like, yeah, let's do that. And the great thing about it, and I didn't realize it until I got into the NBA full time, was I'd learned the NBA game from him. And at the time, I'm like, this is confusing. Like, I don't know any of this, because I came from my own, you know, from one system, and it really opened my eyes up to there's a way outside of what you're used to in Carolina basketball. And there's even things that after my time there that I learned now, that things we actually run with the Hornets now, that I called him one time, and I'm like, Coach, I didn't even know, like, I questioned why you did that before, but I know now why you did that. And
That's so cool.
yeah, it is. And to be able to already have that understanding of the highest level that our sport is, and learn it from arguably not only the greatest shooter, but one of the greatest point guards of all time, it was humbling. And to just see the type of person that he was, and he was a God-fearing man as well. And, you know, to be able to learn where I would ultimately be at this stage of my life from a basketball coaching standpoint was a blessing, because it helped expedite my understanding of the NBA game. And then, you know, also parts of this role that I'm having to do right now.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say that having the opportunity to sit here and talk with you about this is really eye-opening, because I mean, we've been together 6 years,
Yeah.
and we do, I mean, I would say just naturally 95% of what we talk about is basketball related. It's just,
Yeah.
it's naturally, you know, we're out to dinner and we're drawing up plays and talking through, I mean, it's what we enjoy talking about. So, but to hear you say that, you know, that you made that connection from something like being a grad assistant, you never, and you guys don't know this, but his goal was always to coach college basketball. And so, for you learning those back then when your mindset was still in college ball is just a full circle, and to hear that is really neat.
I think it's a life lesson to us all, that sometimes what we're learning right then, that we're like, well, I'm never gonna use this. A lot of times you end up using it, and you're just not listening to what God's plan is. Like I said, I had no idea that I was going to be at the NBA level. And to be able to rely on certain things that we did, even at UNC Charlotte, and be able to bring that to the chopping block with things that we try and do, it's something that I never thought about, because I normally thought that coaches, no matter what level you're at, that they just do it based off of what level they're at. So college coaches look at college things, and NBA stays in the NBA. But, you know, Coach Borrego has done such a great job of treating basketball as an art form, and gathering just plays, concepts from all different levels, from college to the international game. And it's very eye-opening to know that, like, even a coach that's one of 30 in the NBA or one of 30 in the world is looking at film from Conference USA from 5 or 6 years ago. It's crazy. I mean, it's just somebody that loves basketball for what it is, and that's how Coach Price was, and that's even how the great late Larry Hunter was as well. He talked about everything from when he was at Ohio, when they were the part of the Shack of the Mac with Trent. Gary Trent's father was there, and Coach Boyle, who is there as well right now as a head coach. I mean, and to just hear him talk about all of his stories and just being able to experience his love for the game, it really shows you how much guys love the game, but then it also challenges you as well to learn as much as you can, because there's always something that can be learned. I mean, going outside of basketball, I mean, Bill Belichick going 11 minutes just talking about the evolution of snappers and holders. I think that'd be the equivalent of basketball saying the evolution of the screen or the pick and roll game and the rebounding game. I mean, it's just amazing that what many people would think is just a small part of a game in any sport is a passion and a love for one of the greatest coaches in the world of all time. And I think that's just a testament to that. Every coach, no matter how important or how big or small your role is very vital to the organization.
Right. And I really like that because, like you said, that I think that kind of separates a lot of people because, like, as you said, basketball is an art form and there are just so many intricate things that connect with each other. And I feel like we kind of categorize them as irrelevant sometimes, but really they're key because without them that system doesn't work. I mean, especially, talking about the pick and roll thing. If you're not learning on the pick and roll, then it's still a big part of the game. As a basketball player, you would know that. And so, diving into that and learning really the concept of the pick and roll really helps you more in the long run, guarding it or whether it's as running it and learning like so many intricate ways, and just the fine details is really what kind of sets people apart, because that's when you realize it's a lot deeper than what we think it is, whether it's in basketball or in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to go on that too, the quicker you accept your role, because we all want to score. We all want to be at the forefront of highlight tapes. But the easiest way to do that is to do your job and to make the unselfish plays. And I thought I knew how to screen before I got to Carolina, but I also quickly found out that I didn't know how to screen. And learning that I was developing a skill set for that allowed me to contribute. And I mean, every time I see Reggie Bullock, who's with the Dallas Mavericks right now, he always jokingly says, "There's the best screener I ever had." It's like, yeah, because I wanted to play. I wanted to be out here with you guys and get you guys open. But no, it also helped me realize too that in life you're going to have to accept roles that maybe you don't deem as important, and that you want to have a bigger role. But sometimes doing that small role is integral and bigger to the bigger picture, and then it's also going to help you one day for the bigger goal that you aspire to have.
Do you feel like we lack that? And when I say by we, I mean collectively as a community. But athletes, like college players, NBA players, like whatever, do you feel like we lack, or players are lacking that knowledge, being taught that stuff? And maybe that's something you don't want to answer because it could potentially, offend some.
No. I think the way that the game is being played now is very offensive. It's very offensive driven. A lot of times highlight tapes now are of kids, their offensive ability, if they have the ability to dunk. We're seeing all these flashy plays.
Trying not to make faces right now.
but what they're not seeing is they're not seeing all the beautiful faults that they have as players, because they're seeing this perfection, this perfect image of them for a minute and a half, 2 minutes or 5 minutes or however long the clip is, but they're not seeing the bigger picture. And the beautiful part is that once they get to college, or I guess now you could say all these other alleyways that you can get to the pros with, what they're learning is that they're not a perfect player. But what they're struggling to learn is that that's okay. Because there was no perfect player. Michael Jordan wasn't perfect. LeBron is not perfect. Kobe Bryant was not perfect. But what made them great was, what made them great was the fact that every day they were trying to chase that and improve their imperfections. And it's weird to say, because God willing, those guys wake up every day and they know that they can still play. And I always tell her
making
this.
me emotional.
I think that's a beautiful thing about this game and about coaching in general is
Basketball in general.
well, any sport, it's the fact that every game is not perfect. We may win by 30, but there's things that we can improve on. And as a coach and as a player, I think that's the biggest thrill of it all, is being able to wake up and know that you did some good things right, but what could you do better? Because the day that you're satisfied, that's when you just need to go out on the dock and just watch the ducks flock around.
Right.
He loves the lake.
I do. I'm actually ready for it to get warm, and it's going to be warm soon, but it's a process. It's being involved in the process of not being caught up in the score and just getting lost in each practice, each game, and each play, and just treating each play like it's a life of its own and just execute it to the best of your ability.
Yeah. And I think one thing that I really learned from the game is it's the same way in life. We're not perfect in life. The only perfect person that ever walked this earth was Jesus Christ. And I feel like in the same way, we see all these mixtapes, these highlight tapes on social media and stuff, and we want to be, and it makes people seem perfect, and they're not. And so we get afraid of, admitting that we're imperfect, or facing those imperfections. But that's the beauty in life. I've said that the beauty in life is learning, is growing. That's the beauty of life. Imagine if we lived in a perfect world where we were perfect. Can you imagine how bored we would get with life?
So bored. But it just, even taking a step further, just in general, in life, out in nature, the imperfections are what make it beautiful. Like I'll never forget Sappy moment coming up. The first time he looked at me, and like I had no makeup on and I had like a pimple or whatever on my face. And he still tells me this to this day, but he says, I love when you have a pimple or a blemish or something, because it makes you even more beautiful, because it's truly who I am. And if we could all go back to just taking people for what they are
Mhm.
and what they're bringing, like I'm going to use this for example. I look at LaMelo Ball and my heart just like it just gets gripped because he reminds me so much of my little brother. It's not even funny. And when he, just simply because in high school he was ridiculously good at basketball. I mean, could hit shots from. I remember that's the first time I ever saw him. This is years ago, scrolling through Facebook, and there he is, some high school kid shooting half court shots in the middle of the game, making it, like 6 in a row, whatever.
Mhm.
This kid got all this hype through all these years, and now he's been put in the NBA. He's done fantastic, but he's human, right?
Yeah.
He gets in slumps. He's around all these older players, this new league that he's never played in, and he's doing it well. However, cut the kids some slack. Cut these guys. I get it. It is a business. I understand that. But at the end of the day, these are humans.
Mhm.
The coaches are humans. I mean, and that's another question I was going to ask you guys. The game of basketball, no matter how much you coach, how hard you play, at the end of the day, is it a game that you can decide, I'm going to go out here and win, and that's what's going to happen? Or is it truly a game of chance? At the end of the day, I mean, you're relying on refs, other coaches, other players. You're relying on players to come out there and feel their best, play their best. I mean, especially in the NBA now, you've got guys resting and stuff
Yeah.
for not, as big of games as the ones coming up or whatever. So
Control what you can control.
Yeah.
It's and it's simply that it is a make or miss league at the end of the day. But just like I was saying about the little details and the imperfections that may go unnoticed, it still comes down to, can you control what you can control? Are you boxing out? Are you getting a stick hand up? Are you playing the brand of basketball that we preach, and being unselfish and together? And if you do those things, the chance part will favor you, because I feel like a game of chance would be, I mean,
roulette.
I feel like it would be, or I feel like it would be if you were truly saying, like you're saying, like flipping a coin. It's like, all right, heads or tails. Like roulette, yes. But basketball is not that way. It's,
even though there's a bunch of factors,
yeah,
it doesn't, you still can control what you can control, and that can still have an impact on the
Yes.
outcome of the game.
we always say this: if you control what you can control, we'll have a chance.
Absolutely.
And with that being said, if you'll have a chance, if you play the right way, the odds are going to be in your favor.
All right.
Yeah, it reminds me of what my high school coach said. He always said 2 words before every practice, before every game, even afterwards. He said 2 words: attitude and effort. Those are only 2 things you can control on the basketball court. And that's really stuck with me going through life, and even on the court, as a player, and even as a coach, whenever I coach. Control what you can control, like you guys said, which is attitude and effort. Because even though you work on your shot all the time, at the end of the day, you can't really control whether it goes in or not. After the ball leaves your hand, it's free game.
Some days you're off.
Yeah.
But you can go get the rebound from the shot you missed. You can get on the floor for a loose ball, and
those two things can bring a team down quicker than anything.
Exactly.
And to connect the dots, if your attitude and effort, if you control that, like you were saying, you're going to be in a position to be successful.